So one of the workouts that I do regularly every single week, I do 2 lots of running thresholds and then I do 2 lots of erg thresholds. And the thresholds really help for me to push my lactate threshold higher. The reason that I want it to be high is because it means that I can go faster and not have a detrimental effect by the lactic acid. So if your lactic threshold is higher, it just means that you can go quicker. So if you want to know your lactic threshold, I go and get mine tested. So they take blood, so I'm running, and they keep increasing the speed. And then they take my blood every 4 minutes and they look at the levels of the lactic acid in my blood. And then at one point, it will then jump quite a lot. And then you know at that point, that is where your body is starting to produce more lactic acid, then you can actually remove it. And then it starts being sort of detrimental to your performance. So that's the reason I want it to be as high as possible. When I'm training my thresholds, with the running, I will try and be as close to my lactate threshold. I know my rough heart rate as well around it and the sort of speed I should be doing without going into it. So, and then if you're training just underneath it, it will then help to increase it over time. So I've spent a long time doing that and it increases and increases and I keep getting tested. I get tested about every 3 months. So I am just back into, I carried on doing rowing and skiing and bike thresholds whilst I was injured. And recently I've just started back to my running thresholds. So with a running threshold and even with my ergs, for instance, with a run, I will typically warm up in a zone 2 for 15 minutes. I will then do, basically if I'm working in just below my threshold pace, I will do, for every minute that I'm at work, I will take 12 seconds rest. So if I'm doing 4 minutes on, I'll take 48 seconds rest. If I'm doing 3 minutes on, I'll take 36 seconds rest, and so on. And they vary. So sometimes I'll do a longer threshold. So I might do a 10-minute threshold, but that means that you get a 2-minute rest in between. Typically I would work for between 30 and 40 minutes total time when I add all my sets together, not including the rest. So for instance, I might do 4 sets of 10 and have 2 minutes rest in between. I find then my graft would sort of have probably bigger dips in that 2 minutes, whilst if I was doing a 3 minutes on with only 36 seconds rest, I might do 12 sets of that, so that would be 36 minutes. But I find in between with the 36, my heart rate drops enough, but you don't get the big sort of teeth in your graft. I get smaller teeth, so it just trains you slightly differently. And they vary each week, so I obviously change the time that I'm in threshold for and change the rest. And then after I finished them, I also do another 15-minute zone 2 jog. So that's why I do thresholds. They're really useful if you're in an event. So my event is a lot of running and it's got the stations. It means that I can run faster, I can push the stations harder and get around the course quicker without getting lactic acid buildup, which then might slow you down when you, for instance, get to the wall balls. So if you do an event like that, training your thresholds is really useful. So I will just now show you a little bit of me training thresholds. So that was just a little bit of thresholds I was doing today. I was doing 4 minutes on and then I was doing 48 seconds off. I did 9 sets of those. And also what I like to do, I like to record my data as well. So just to keep it accurate and to see how each of my thresholds compare. So I was taking note of what my distance was, how many meters I was covering in those 4 minutes, and I try and keep all of my sets within about 10 meters of each other. I do the same if I'm rowing or skiing. I'll also program it in so I can record the data. But if you are trying to do an event where you're definitely using endurance, or you need sort of your speed in your running, I definitely would recommend doing some threshold running, as well as like making sure your aerobic base is really good. So lots of zone 2, because you need to have a really good base, but also look at doing this, and it will just really, really help you when you're in your event. So give it a try, and I hope you get on well.